Hello, everyone. Hello to Julie and Leah. Once again, my name is Dan, owner of Change Lifestyle and Apparel in St. Jacobs. We are doing a series entitled Love is a Verb. We even had the t-shirts made up just so that people know it's not just for promotion. You can actually buy the shirt here. But we started the Love is a Verb series because in the Waterloo region, there's a lot of people doing amazing things and putting love into action. And we feel here at Change Lifestyle and Apparel that love is a verb. It's meant to be in action. It's meant to have some impact. And these two amazing women are doing great things along with help from other people in the Waterloo region. This is Julie and Leah of the 519 Community Collective. How are you doing, ladies?
Hello.
Hi.
So I heard about you from some friends, and I was wondering if Julie or Leah, whoever would like to, can just give us, actually probably Julie, I think you were the one that sort of began. Can you give me the origins of how the 519 Community Collective started?
Certainly. So thanks for having us here. We really appreciate this. It's an honor to just, be able to talk about what we love so much. We're really passionate about it. The whole 519 Community Collective started at the beginning of the pandemic in March 2020. I just realized with my businesses, my industries, I'm a photographer and a hairstylist, my industries were both shut down. And I realized that there was a lot of people, myself included, suffering from a lot of depression and just really negativity and thoughts and just things like that. So I started this group on Facebook and I encouraged people to join and just share their stories, share their struggles through the pandemic so we could all just encourage one another and not feel so isolated when we were all locked in at home. And through that, I realized that my struggles were quite minimal compared to most of the struggles that I was reading. And I was still able to feed my family through the pandemic. I was still able to, like, my husband still worked through the whole thing. Whereas so many people around me were commenting about losing their jobs, like on the verge of homelessness. And they literally had jobs a couple months ago. And I just realized that, holy cow, we need to do something about this. So I just started making like food hampers. And, I'd send people a DM and be like, hey, like, I've got a food hamper here. I'm just going to pop it off. Don't feel weird. I don't mind helping or whatever. And we just kind of started doing that. And then it was like buying a family pizza night or whatever. And it ended up being through this summer. My kids and I would spend about 6 hours in the van several times a week driving around, dropping off food hampers and picking up little donations from people to pass to people. And then we discovered the motels and we started going out there and bringing out sandwiches. We used to make them all ourselves until we got connected with Cobb's Bread, praise the Lord. And now I no longer have to do all of that. But what started out as something very tiny in my kitchen has expanded to 12 different food programs. We're feeding hundreds of people every single week, sending out hundreds of food hampers. It's absolutely incredible what has happened with just starting a little tiny thing with my kids and bringing some incredible administration team members, Leah being one of them, my co-chair. I kind of step back sometimes and I'm just in awe because I remember at the very beginning, I'd say to my husband, wouldn't that be amazing if like 10 years down the road, this actually became something? And like we had programs and it was like this and there was structure and I had people on the board. And he's like, yeah, babe, dreaming's free, do it up, and that happened in less than like 2 years, so yeah. It's amazing. There was a need for it. I'm just happy to have gotten it going, but I certainly couldn't do it alone. I have some incredible administration team members and volunteers that help every week. But I feel very blessed to be in this position and be able to do something I love very much, just right in our backyard.
That's awesome. So I know there's tons of parts that I want to ask you more about and that get Leah to talk about. But the one thing that when you were talking about that, how did you find people were willing to receive that help at the beginning? Because most people are people, if you're working and you're taking care of your family, there's a stigma to taking the help. Was that difficult to get people to be open enough to just actually say, I appreciate the help without having to do other things?
Yes. So I think that it's a very humbling experience. You know, I've been there myself. I stayed at Anselma House for 2 weeks back in the day.
Mm.
I have accessed the food program through the region myself when I was really struggling. So I understand what it's like to be on the receiving end. A lot of people don't know a lot of that part about my story, but I was in a position of need for quite some time, and I just remember how humbling it was. So I think my approach has always been just to think about how they would feel, and, you know, just express to them, like, I totally know what what you're going through, and there is no shame in this. And, you know, when you're ready, you're more than welcome to contribute back. If you have something you want to trade, like out of your, like you got corn you don't like, or this or this. So I think it's just a matter of being humble and approaching them with love and kindness, because you don't really know what people are going through behind the scenes. So my method has always been just to just keep it real, keep it, you know, so that people feel comfortable. You know, you don't want
Yeah,
anyone to feel uncomfortable accessing help they desperately need, you know?
yeah, that's awesome. So Julie started this inner kitchen with her kids kind of as an idea, Leah, and now you have a board and you're actually working with the group. How did that come about that you wanted to, when did you hop on board and how did that come about that you wanted to join on?
Sure, yeah. So I joined this group probably 2 years ago, and have been following kind of what they've been doing. I started as a volunteer, so I did hamper deliveries and just deliveries to different areas in town, as well as some other like packaging and that sort of thing, and did some baking as well at one point, and my family helped with that. So that's kind of how I started, and then just really grew to love it and love the connection that I had with people, as well as working with Julie and the admin team. And so I came on as admin about a year ago, and I've absolutely loved every moment of this, and really have grown to be like a family in the admin. So we're very, very grateful.
That's awesome. So uh, maybe can you talk me through, um, first, we'll go back to from the original. Let's talk about what does a day look like now using this group? How many, whoever would like to answer. So maybe you guys could sort of share that. You said you have 12 programs going now, or like multiple, how many volunteers do you have? And what is the range and who are you reaching? Like in 2 years, it started from a little idea to something that's pretty significant. Like how big is significant and what's happening with your organization now in the region?
Leah, maybe you want to address the volunteers, like maybe the amount that we have in the volunteer group, as well as on average, how many volunteers, including everything, all the facets. It's a lot.
Yeah, yes. So so I do oversee the volunteers. So we have approximately 50 volunteers that are currently on our rotation right now. But we do have over 8,000 members. So we do have different people who come in and just sub in at different moments. But yes, I've got bi-weekly rotations for most of our volunteer spots, which allow everybody to have a good volunteer and home balance, and just be able to give back. So we have, yeah, it's pretty well, structured that way. And we have hamper delivery drivers that come out twice a week. So on Tuesdays and Saturdays, they're helping, as well as we have 5 different outreach nights. So we have 3 to 5 people joining us at outreach nights as well. So
That's
that's
amazing. So
lots
if
of
someone
opportunity.
if someone starts volunteering with you, are they then committed to 10 hours a week and it has to be every Saturday from 10 till 5? Like that's always a challenge. Lots of people want to give, but because there's not always flexibility, like how much do they need to give and how often?
Yeah, good question. So typically, if we did any of the volunteer positions, it's really as based on availability, right? So I have some people who want to come and help with hamper deliveries every single week. And then I put up a post every week and allow new people to step up. And if they want to help, they can. So we're just constantly communicating through our Facebook groups. As well as like for the outreach, the commitment is about 1.5 hours and it's bi-weekly. So it's about 3 hours a month,
Okay.
top of maybe travel time, right? But
Yeah.
in that time, you can serve between like 40 to 60 people. And it's just really an opportunity to kind of fill your cup and just make connection with people in the community. So
That's awesome. So Julie, what, when you had the idea to where you are now, how did you decide to grow it into these multiple levels and programs and what you're doing? Like, what are you doing now? What are the programs, and how do you decide where you need to focus your energies?
Yes. So I got to say, most of the almost all of the programs we have started in my brain, my little ADH squirrel brain. And then I would be like, okay, guys, we need to do this. Like, I love in my professional photography career, I've learned how to do like digital media and social media. So it comes very naturally to me. So, I can come up with a program and have a full presentation ready to go in 5 minutes. And I'm sending it to the team like, okay, we got to do this. And thankfully, they've never turned any of them down. We obviously all discuss it and stuff like that, but I like to think that there has to be somebody that's like the visionary, thinking of the ideas and kind of wakes up hungry for it every day, so that everyone stays motivated and excited about it, because it is all volunteer. We don't get paid, so everyone needs to be really excited about it and have energy behind it to make things continue to flow. So we started out with the food hamper program, and just my kids and I and some friends going out to like the motels. And my kids and I, since they were babies, I have a 14-year-old as my oldest, have been going out downtown to feed folks on the street. So it's never been something that was like, that didn't start for my family at the pandemic. That just started talking about it publicly at the beginning of the pandemic. That was how I was raised. I was a missionary's kid. I grew up in Papua New Guinea. So I always learned that that was just a way of life. So I was excited to bring that to the community and say, hey, you can do this in your own backyard. You don't have to get on a plane and fly to South Africa. You can do it right here in your backyard. So we started with that program, and then very quickly realized I cannot keep up with this demand. Like, I was cooking for 60 people in my kitchen and bringing huge trays out, and it was crazy. So we realized we need to partner with some other people, some other organizations to get things rolling. So we actually partnered with Emmanuel Pentecostal Church. They have graciously donated their beautiful commercial kitchen, where one of our admin team, Lisa Braun, heads up an entire cooking program where we serve hot meals to the community through our outreach programs. We also serve frozen meals to folks who are just really struggling, maybe quarantine, a surgery, fleeing from an abusive relationship, and they're in a motel and they don't have anything. We have an entire sandwich program where we send out about 400 sandwiches to the streets every single week. We have a community fridge that is fully supported by the community with mutual aid and the generosity of local farmers. We have 24 Little Free Food Pantries across the region, and all the way out to Elora, Breslau, Fergus, Elmira. We have our community gardens. We have 2 beautiful 519 urban gardens where last year we ran them, that everything that we grew was donated right back into the community through food programs, the food bank, free farm stands. And then our Pride and Joy, which is the New Beginnings program, which I think is just a beautiful program. A lot of people, when they're moving out of a shelter or a group home, or even recently a car, people come from horrific situations. They have oftentimes not great credit, no support from family, no money in the bank, and they're moving out of a room in a shelter to like their apartment now, and they have nothing. And so we have an amazing team, Jennifer, Rick, April, and some other folks who get together, connect with these folks, figure out what they're going to need to get set up, like a bed to sleep on, and towels, and food in their pantry, and just like some art for their walls, so they can have that feeling. Like recently there was a woman who was a career prostitute, and she was through an abusive relationship and just horrible things. Victim service finally found a place, and our team, April and her son, were there for like 9 hours, hanging pictures, doing everything for her. And that woman just stood there and wept and wept and wept and wept in gratitude, because she had never, ever had a home, so to speak, or had anyone care for her or love her enough to care about do you like this picture or do you like this picture? You
Mhm.
know, so these programs have become, I think, a staple in the region, and I'm so proud of how hard we've all worked. It's an amazing accomplishment that our team has been able to rise up and continue to grow these programs. So in terms of what the future holds or how do we focus, right now our focus is just making sure each one of these programs runs to the best of its ability, as efficient as humanly possible, that we have enough supporting bodies, that no one gets burnt out, that all of our volunteers have the right trauma response supports, that when they see certain situations on the street, like maybe an overdose or something, that we're not just leaving them to go home. We want to be able to work with our team so that they have all the support that they have, so we can continue to do this and make this something that's going to last forever, hopefully.
That's awesome. So
Yeah.
when you're talking about that, there's something that I'm curious about though, is, and I please know this, this is not meant to sound like a political type of question, but we all hear that there are lots of organizations which are also doing really good work. How did it
Absolutely.
come about that at the beginning of this pandemic, you had an idea and within 2 years, you're doing all of this work, and there already was parts of that social safety net implemented in our society, in our culture, at least here in Waterloo Region, and that you were able to still address this need? And I realize that this might, just how do you know how that came about? Like, how does it come about that there is still so much need when we know there's lots of people really trying to do good work?
Yes, I almost wish our admin Leslie was on this call, because she would be so good at addressing this one. I'll address it a little bit, and then I would lean to Leah to try and address some of this as well. Leah is currently enrolled in Conestoga College, taking some amazing courses that are talking about this exact thing, the need. And I think that, yes, there were things in place before. However, the pandemic brought everyone to their knees, including organizations that were helping people. Because I'm a grassroots organization, I never shut down. We went out and fed people during the stay-at-home lockdown. Full disclosure, in my opinion, people were still starving on the streets, not less than, more than. So I'm not going to implement policies that prevent me from being able to help people. Whereas a lot of organizations in the region either shut down completely or cut down their staff by 50%. The food bank was seeing shortages of like 30% shortages in the food that they were getting given to them, but they were seeing like a 40% increase in the people needing help.
Right.
So there's a serious deficit there. There's a lot of people that are accessing our programs that have a lot of barriers for accessing help. Disability, no transportation, mental health issues. We serve people that have agoraphobia, that have no family support, and they only open their door a crack to access the food. That's the limit of them being able to get out of their house. They could easily be forgotten and starve to death in there if no one came and supported them. So I think that there's also a stigma that when people go to the food bank, they get everything they need. They're set up for the month. They don't have to worry about anything. The food bank took care of them. The food bank is an amazing resource, but it's not a magic wand. And unfortunately, a lot of times when single moms or whoever is accessing the food bank goes, they get ingredients, but a lot of those ingredients can't even make up one dinner, like one meal. They're all different components of ingredients. So if you have young school children that are in school and they're giving you okra and kale and spinach and this, you can't make school lunches out of that. You can't force your kid to just take all those greens to school and eat them. That's all you have this week. So we're supporting people that are already accessing the food bank and still require additional supports because they don't have enough, or they don't have any support. They can't get there. They're in a wheelchair, or like I said, mental health issues. And there's a lot of people that are embarrassed to reach out to certain organizations, but they feel a safety net in our group that they can reach out to one of us personally and explain their situation. So I think we're supporting some of the same people, but we're also offering programs like I've never heard of a program like the New Beginnings program in the region, and I did quite a bit of research to try and find one. A lot of the shelters, when they leave, they give you like an air mattress. That's not the same thing as having an intimate, someone getting to know what color you like, what kind of sheets you like. you know, it's a totally, so it's like we have a big umbrella and we have all these programs we're serving. So some of them might interlock with, you know, the food bank or this food access program, but we always come home empty handed. We never bring food back. So that to me is pretty telling. And the community fridge is always utilized. We're constantly having to fill up our pantries. So the reality is COVID brought everyone to their knees. We need way more supports in the region, and we can all recognize that everyone can do an amazing job doing their thing, but that doesn't take away from anyone else's efforts either. We should all be able to really just help people and do it in a way that we can just kindly and recognize everyone's efforts at the same time. I think that's important to do.
I think that's awesome. Maybe just to finish things up, ladies, can I ask you each if you can just in a few words let people know how it went from taking that a small step to try, like it started, Julie, with you taking a step forward to come up with this concept to just put something on Facebook, and now it has grown to this. And Leah, you started by just wanting to volunteer a little bit of your time, and then you ended up being part of this organization growing. How, maybe, can you just speak to the goal? I know you said you'd like it to be something big, but the goal wasn't to be doing all of this. The goal was just trying to give yourself and others an outlet to be able to cope and do well in this scenario, and it's continued to grow to something. Can you maybe just address the first little step? Not about how it got to there, but what was the impotence for you to take that first step, and how did that happen?
So for me personally, it was having a serious conversation with myself and then a serious conversation with my husband, because this all happens from my home right now. So it like we have a double half and whatever car garage that's a warehouse essentially. We can't park our vehicles in there. It's essentially like a warehouse. Yeah. And much of my house is as well. And so for me personally, it was me deciding that I wanted to take the time out of my life to grow this and make it something, because I am privileged. My husband has an amazing job and we live in a beautiful home, and I have all of my needs met. And I always wanted to have something. Like I grew up as a missionary's kid, and all my life, when I was growing up, I'd said, oh, one day I'm going to do something like that, or I'm going to be a missionary, or this or that. And my mom used to say, well, you don't have, you can be a missionary in your own backyard. And it never really applied until now. And now she always says, remember, I used to tell you that. Now you see that this was what was always awaiting you, essentially, you know? Yeah. But it was me just deciding that I could just keep it here and just kind of, you know, whatever, or I can actively work every single day to grow this on social media and promote it everywhere I can and talk to every single person and I had a very big network before this. So I just pushed out onto that network, and the internet is amazing, and it grew very quickly. And I think people are excited about our passion about it too.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And
why don't
Leah,
you?
how about you? Leah, how did you get there?
Yeah, so for me, I think it was about the pandemic. And so I work in a corporate office, and with that, we all moved home. So we were all kind of working out of our home offices. And then I just became to feel like a little bit isolated. And I was just looking for that human connection, right? So then even just delivering a hamper, right? Having that moment where you had to, you get to make eye contact with somebody and help them. And, you know, it kind of started to fill my cup. And then it really started to really motivate me to want to do more. And so I reached out to outreach and started working in the outreach capacity as a volunteer. And I absolutely love that. And just getting to know the people that are currently that we get to see at some of our outreach nights and build relationships with them, get to know them by name, and just, you know, what kind of sandwich do you like, that sort of thing. You know, it seems so minimal, but sometimes I think we're the only people that they see on a regular basis. So for me, it was just about that, just really the human connection.
That's amazing. So before we run out of time on our Zoom meeting schedule, can you guys just, whoever, let us know if people need some help or if they want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to find you? What's the best way to interact with you so that they can, and or how do they pass it on to others that might need your help?
So I would say joining our Facebook group is a great way to get started, 519 Community Collective. That has all of the information for every other like branch off, like any specific email, like if you want to donate, we'll show you how. You want to volunteer, this is how you go about it. Do you need help? Here's 5 different forms you can use to access help, or different programs you can get involved with. So our Facebook group, or 519communitycollective@gmail.com. That's our general email. So any email that comes in there, if it's related to something else, we just fire it off to a specific email. And we have a full team that helps work with all the different programs and emails that come in. So we make sure that we try to get back to people as soon as we can.
That's awesome. Ladies, I just want to say thank you so much. I really appreciate all the work that you guys are doing in our community. And thank you for actually taking that love as a verb concept. Before you even knew that we had shirts and we were trying to do this, you guys were taking that step to put love and compassion for people into action. I just want to say thank you as a community member for what you're doing to try and make Waterloo Region a better place. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you
Thank
for the
you.
opportunity. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
Have a great day.
Yeah, you too. Bye-bye.